Welcome back. Engineer Saleh Al-Rawahi, CEO of Tanweer. Al-Rumhi. Saleh Al-Rumhi, CEO of Tanweer. You are welcome to the stage to lead the session of Big Data.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for the introduction. Big data. Big data is the new oil according to Gartner. And for your information, mankind up to 2003 have generated 5 exabyte of data, which is 10 to the power 18. So it's a million of a million of a million of data. That now is generated every day. So every day we generate 5 exabyte of data, which is huge. In every single second, there is like 2.7 million emails exchanged and 9,000 tweets, 900 Instagram photos uploaded, 71,000 Google search, and like 77,000 YouTube videos viewed. There are like 1.5 terabyte of data every month from Tanweer. And there is like 15,000 terabyte of data from Nama Group. So you can imagine the amount of huge data that we generate as well as a business. Big data is a new term that has been used. The definition of a big data is anything that has high in volume, high in velocity, and high in variety is called big data. To understand more about big data, allow me to welcome our guest speakers, Mr. John Thabet from Microsoft. He's a Data and Artificial Intelligence Technology Specialist. And Mr. Shosan Raul from Huawei. He's an IT Solution Manager in Oman's branch. Mr. John Thabet, he has joined Microsoft as Data and Artificial Intelligence Specialist, and he has held various positions in the company in the IT and cloud computing. And Mr. Soshan Raul has joined Huawei in 2018, and he is based in Oman. He served as an IT Solution Manager. He has spent his 5 years running projects of shifting to the cloud, and he has advised many senior executives in the cloud space. He has 15 years of experience in various fields of the IT technology. So allow me first to welcome Mr. John to present his presentation.
Thank you very much. So the session after lunch, big data. First of all, thank you very much, Nama Group, for the great invitation and the great event. I really like all the topics that we discussed. And positioning big data after speaking about IoT, blockchain, and all these technologies where everything that's gonna pour into how much data that I have. And of course, my introduction had been burnt, thank you. So the same introduction that I have, it's a tremendous amount of data that we actually generate every day. So how can we help? How can we think about the concept of all these data generated from the IoT sensors, from the operations, the data that we have about our own warehouses, the spare parts, the data that we have in our financial systems, the data that we have about, even about our own employees? How can we, the big question is, how can we leverage this data so that we can get into an actionable item, either by leveraging AI or by having some sort of dashboards and reports where we give it to the top management so that they can know what's happening. So a question, how many megawatts that we generated today? How much money did we spend in the past 3 months over the maintenance or the predictive maintenance? How much money that we did spend over our human capital, which are the people? Some very interesting facts about the energy field. As you can see in here, the green field of energy had been producing 3% of the global energy, but this number is going to be exponentially growing as we speak. And of course, the proliferation of the mini or the small grids that we need to adapt when it comes to the decentralized power generation is growing more and more. And then finally, by 2020, 38% of the data generated by 6.8 billion IoT sensor, we need to capture, analyze, understand, and start having decision on the top of that. So having that said about the industry, what's Microsoft's role in all of this? So when you think of Microsoft's mission of empowering every person and every organization over the globe, we think about 4 main pillars. How can we transform a product? So our product is energy. Can we think or aspire to have a mobile application that would tell the customer that we are starting the summer? So please, let's try to control a little bit the ACs. So we understand that the customer, according to his profile and the data that we have about our own customer, thinking, since we're already thinking about digital and smart meters, can we think about digital energy-led houses where you can actually program the house? So we are spending so much on operations when it comes to energy. And I have this very interesting discussion with one of the members here in Nama Group about the renewable energy. So a fact, we have one of the biggest solar energy generation farms in the region, correct? And then they started to tell me that we are facing a strange problem here in Oman. So the dust is really affecting how much energy that we are generating every day. So can you imagine that we need to collect the data about the wind, the weather, store it, and correlate it with the operations data so that we can get the cost of operations reduced, like the cost of maintenance, the cost of doing the day-to-day cleaning and operations so that this station would work efficiently. Pretty much it goes to the same stations and substations and power transmitting units that we have that we can do the same on. And when it comes to the employees, and there was one interesting question about the artificial intelligence bots or agents. So if I know everything about the employee, I know the time that he gets into his office, he's on field, or he's working from one of our headquarters or one of the branches, I can start actually leveraging all the data about the employee so that I can actually enhance the quality of work or business that he's trying to cover. So, in short, we are here to discuss something that we call the data culture. If data is going to be the new currency or the new oil, we need to know how to harness this data in some sort of a meaningful way. And when it comes to the data explosion, I need you to think about what kind of storage or what kind of solution that would actually sustain all this amount of data, and I would be able to provide meaningful output to the management or even leverage AI as a virtual assistant so that I can get Nama Group and Oman as a country to elevate more and more when it comes to performance and technology adoption. Us in Microsoft, we really try to think that the data culture needs to be any data, anytime, anywhere. So I'm collecting a lot of data about the weather. This is not really a private data. This is a data that's open to everybody. Should I be paying a lot of money to store this data and doing the analysis? Can I actually start leveraging the cloud to do that? It's an open data? Yes, I can. Can I start having some machine data when it comes to the logs of my machines as big data? And I want to leverage a solution that would actually give me a predictive maintenance model so that I would be able to provide the management with when is the right time to do the maintenance, what kind of parts that we need to purchase and buy, and maybe this would actually affect the KPI of the financials or the dollar sign at the end of the day. So think of it as a Microsoft platform where we provide you with the services anywhere. So if the solution would fit to the cloud because of the cloud economics, yes, let's go there. All right, I would need this to be held on-prem. Can I do that? Absolutely. With the new SQL 2019, and for the first time, a regular or a traditional database engine would be able to handle even the unstructured data. So think of it as the platform where I can go anywhere. And when it comes to big data and edge computing, can we have something that we put at the edge where we do the compute over this big data so that we can have faster responses? Right now, we have something that we call the Azure Stack, which is the power of the cloud on-prem that you can actually leverage and use and have faster responses and at the same time keep your data on-prem. So having that said, when it comes to big data and artificial intelligence, I need you to think about three things or three main pillars. What kind of tools that we can use, what kind of infrastructure that we can leverage, and what kind of services that I can consume. And because at the end of the day, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If there is a training model that is successful by one of our partners, can we leverage that immediately and start looking into our data? If there is an artificial intelligence API that I can just use so that I can generate a solution, would that be possible for me? The answer is absolutely yes. So think about these three things when it comes to data. Do I have a single source of truth? What kind of data that we have? We have data in Excel sheets. Databases like Oracle, IBM, SQL, whatever, Access, whatever kind of a database. We have data in written reports. So all of these are actually data. And it gets even more and more complex if we are talking about several companies in a group. It's not a single company. So everybody have his own source of the data. All right. So now I want to go to the LT team and say, now we need to take a decision about next year's budget. Do we have a single source of data? Here kicks in the concept of having a modern data warehouse where I'm collecting and collaborating all the data together so that I can get a single source of truth to make the high-level decision. And then, once I have this source of data or the single source of truth, I need to think about, all right, can I anticipate or expect my budget for the next year, for the next 3 years, based on the data that I've collected? Same goes to each and every aspect of the industry. I need you to think about predictive maintenance. I need you to think about the next best action for the organization. I need you to think about utilizing the time of the employee inside the organization. How much time are we spending in sending emails? How much time are we spending in going back and forth into the communication? How can we minimize or utilize this? Because this is, at the end of the day, is data. So starting from the employee, looking at the top management when it comes to budget and dollar sign, and then we go into the real industry or the operations where we can cover leveraging the data that we have, meaningful decisions and solid decisions that are based on science, not based on speculations. We would decide according to the last 3 years index. So I had this very interesting discussion about the oil and gas. So the oil price is dropping. It had reached $85 and then going to $50. How is that really impacting our business? Because at the end of the day, oil is energy, right? So we need to understand, if we have this source of data about what's happening in our market and the global market, can this be a reflection or an index? So what's going to happen in the energy level? Absolutely. How? Let's just collect the data, match the data with our kind of data, apply machine learning, the data science part, where we have the data, but we need the tools so that we can actually get to some meaningful results. And of course, when it comes to IoT, millions and millions of sensors. If we are collecting all this data, when it comes to an IoT project, the management would start thinking, all right, I need to store this data somewhere. And IoT sensors are not really expensive. Coming back from an IT background, I know that the most expensive part in any data center is going to be the storage. We pay like 35% to 40% over the storage. So should I be storing the data that is machine data coming so that I can make a predictive maintenance decision on-prem? That's just a question. With the 5x amount of data generated every day, and the huge number of data that I've heard that Nema Group is generating, we need to think about retention. How much time do I need to keep my data? And if data is the new currency, and I need an cost-effective place to keep the data and harness the data, I need really to start thinking about the cloud. So, hybrid is the terminology. We can keep the data anywhere, everywhere, start collecting the data even from the social media. What's the hypes about the energy? What's the hype about electricity and water in Oman? Can this be an input for us so that we can actually enhance our customer service? Can we start harnessing the data about the power consumption so that we can actually know which location in Oman is going to consume the most? So most probably I need to prepare myself for spikes over my grid over this time because of that population. So any kind of a database, anywhere, think about it as structured, unstructured, on-prem, in the cloud. The hybrid model, I believe that is the best fit for Oman, because think right now that I need to keep my data. I would be able to keep my data anywhere. I would be compliant with the regulation. I would actually start benefiting from the cloud economics. So, flexibility of choice, security and privacy, and of course, any data, anytime, anywhere. The data culture is the main theme that when we're gonna start talking about the big data as a terminology. So this is like an agnostic model. I'm collecting the data from a lot of sources, and then I'm going into preparation of the data. So I pre-process the data because not all the data are really meaningful. And then I start storing the data, applying some machine learning on the top of the data, and having a model where I would make a decision taken upon this data. And finally, I need a way or a method to actually present this data to the top management in a very easy reporting way. So, having that said, I want to get back to the services, infrastructure, and tools and say what kind of services, infrastructures, and tools that we are talking about here. If I want to have a virtual assistant or a chatbot, can I just consume it as a service? Or I need to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to build something that's already there and I can consume? If we talk about energy right now, can I just open Azure Portal and look for machine learning training models that are ready made for me just as a start, so that I can understand how machine learning can help me utilizing and harnessing my data? And of course, when it comes to the infrastructure, it's the whole wide portfolio of SQL on-prem, data lakes, Spark processing, and Databricks, and of course, going up to the IoT edge. From a tools perspective, there are the Microsoft portfolio or the Microsoft tools, and of course, TensorFlow by Google, Caffe, and Cognitive Toolkits, which are all open source tools. So when you think about Microsoft these days, I don't want you to think about products. I want you to think about platform that would really help me harness my data and accelerate the go-to-market time when it comes to a project deployment. So I can just start consuming one of the ready-made services, build my own over a ton of templates, and of course, use open source tools or the native tools provided by Microsoft to be able to work on my big data projects. So, big data in 3 main actions. I already own the data. I need a way to process it, model it, and then view it so that I can have automated systems powered by AI. I would be able to provide real insights to the top management where they can really take the right action based on science and based on data. All right, so having that said, so this is R-based analytics, which is pretty much related to the open source, on-prem solutions, and of course the cloud analytics. This is a very, very interesting slide that I always love to put when it comes to the artificial intelligence and machine learning gallery. So Microsoft had gone into partnership with almost everyone in the market. If we're talking about Huawei, if we're talking about GE, if we're talking about Siemens, you name the vendor or the partner when it comes to any kind of a domain, there are partnerships. And the output of these partnerships is right here. This is what we call the Microsoft Azure Marketplace. Think of it as the store of whatever kind of a phone that you're using. You just can go there and leverage the solution from the preferred vendor or partner that we want to go with, and I would be able to deploy it immediately. The go-to-market time would just shrink because of this. All right, so I'm done. Thank you very much, and looking forward to our discussion and questions.